hmm these are upsetting to me. Mhm. I actually dislike hurricanes. Yeah. Mhm. And I know that we've had some problems with them. Yes. hmm Seems that we have a hurricane season every year. Yeah. Now you probably remember Hurricane Katrina. Yes. A hurricane begins as an unremarkable smattering of thunderstorms over the ocean. When the ocean's water is warm enough, at least 80 degrees Fahrenheit, it heats the air above. Yeah. Warm air currents rise, lowering the atmospheric pressure if there's much wind shear. See box at the right. Oh, this is what wind shear is. Yeah. Um, if there's much wind shear present, low pressure blown apart by the wind, but if the wind shear is minimal, yeah. The low pressure area draws in nearby air, which also then gets heated up, rises, and adds to the low pressure system below. Now, when the winds reach 74 miles per hour, meteorologists deem it a Category 1 hurricane. As long as there's warm air to keep the updraft going, the wind shear remains low, the vortex will continue raging. Yes. Mhm. I designed one of these steam generators. Yeah. It's made out of recycled tires, and it can be towed to any location. See, if you have enough electricity, some metals you can heat up to 10 to 15,000 degrees. I did talk about global warming and why it's unnecessary, and my thought was, well, when we get around 74 miles per hour, yes, what if you added 10,000 degrees steam to a possible hurricane? Phew. Now, at these temperatures above 80 degrees Fahrenheit, yes, that's when things start to really move. Yeah. Well, let's say you had a 4-story tall, approximately 4 to 10,000 square foot box that happens to float on the ocean. Yes. And you put one of these little generators in there, poop, and you start heating up the steam so that you just kind of pull it this direction. Yes. Now you would say, oh my gosh, but it would cut a path. Yes, it would. And I just kind of slice right through the eye of the hurricane. Pouch. Now, there's a way to make the hurricane rise in the atmosphere. It rises in the atmosphere. That's right. Yes. So that it would dissipate the power of the vortex of the individual hurricane. Yes. Now, it doesn't take a lot of work to do this because I don't like hurricanes. Yes. They cause a lot of destruction. Yes. Hurricane Sandy. Oh, Hurricane Katrina. And the thought was, well, if it's this degree to heat it up so that it starts this process, yes, and we have the weather technology to be able to see these category ones, yes. You'd say you can't tow, yes, as in it's kind of like a slow moving ship, yeah. hmm A box that's 4 stories tall and 10,000 squares. Well, you can't do it. I think you can. I mean, there are specific ships, yes, that are designed to be in rough seas. Now, obviously, you got some sort of tow line on this whole steam generator. Yeah. And it's not there to manufacture electricity. And I feel confident that inside the structure itself, yes, one of these little generators that produces enough electricity to run the HHO gas desalinator. Pooch. Now, I'm not trying to get the actual salt from it. No. And I'm not trying to make fresh water from it. No. I'm just converting enough of the steam to electricity to run the welder. Yes. With the intention of causing such an immense amount of steam that it cuts through the eye of a hurricane. Now, my thought is, yes, if a hurricane does not strike land, yes, because I have my own personal possessions on the land, yep, I won't experience any of the damage that hurricanes cause. Now, for some reason, we can drop these little balls in there and we can see how it works. Yeah, but nobody has invented any possible way of dissipating hurricanes. But I think it is possible. I know you're concerned about the fishies that might get hurt. But when I look at the hundreds of billions of dollars of damages that have been caused by acts of God, I once sent you an email about the act of God. Yes. Mm. It seems that a lot of insurance companies will not insure for an act of God. So, and they always say, well, it's the hurricane was an act of God. That's why you lost your house. Ah! And so the federal government has to bail out. Well, let's look at it just for a quick second. Let's say you wanted an act of God today. Now, I could use some ionospheres. There's 38 of them throughout the world. Yes. And I could bounce it off the atmosphere. I could heat up the winds in the Caribbean. Yes, you could. And then you know what? For some reason, it got above 80 degrees. How'd that happen? Now, if the ocean's water is warm enough, oh, look at you, solaration. Oh. So, is there the availability of solar radiation? Yes, ionospheres. Weather weapons. Why don't we call the HARP up there in Alaska and find out what they're doing today? Yes, I wanted to buy that. You know those radio telescopes they use to heat up the atmosphere? Yeah. I thought somebody was using ions to affect the actual thoughts of the population. And we build these super large ionospheres with the intention of causing holes in the upper atmosphere. Yeah. Then we complain about how hot it is on Earth. Yes, yes, yes. Why don't you get me all the parts necessary to build one of these harps? See, my thought is I'd pay you 10 cents on the dollar for every part that you actually installed in the harp. Yes, because when I looked in the inside of it from some pictures that I've seen, yeah, I could recycle all of that and I could make steam generators out of it. Yes. In fact, I could make some weapons out of those antennas. See, if you had one of the harp antennas, yes, but let's say you put it on a tank. You put some electricity through it and you decide to electrocute the shit out of everybody. Yeah. There is a lot of used parts that have been used to build these various ionospheres throughout the world. Yeah. That if I could get them at a tenth of the cost of what you paid to build it, yes, it's possible that we don't need them anymore. Now, I'd take all those parts out, I'd recycle them, I'd make little generators out of them or different types of electricity, like the antenna electricity. And I just shock the enemy. Oh my gosh, I'm being electrocuted. I'm invading the United States. And then I make one of these tugboats that hauls it. And it just kind of about 100, degrees on top of the actual. How hot is it well, it says here 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Ocean water is warm enough. You think you could design a satellite now that could measure the temperature of ocean water on the top of the ocean, not underneath the ocean? Yeah. And you kind of like, let's say there's a wildfire. Now, a lot of the wildfires, they have to be above 120 to 125 degrees Fahrenheit to be able to cause a wildfire. Now, I wanted to sell to the government a new satellite system that looks for wildfires so that we could dump salt water on it. Yeah, but for some reason, somebody didn't want me doing that. What about a satellite system that measures the top of the ocean's heat? Yes. Anytime it gets above 100 degrees, you're like, oh my gosh, we might have a hurricane. All of a sudden, you're sending the tugboat out, pulling the thing along. Yes, destroying the eye of the hurricane. Now, it's one of these satellite systems that just measures the actual temperature on top of ocean water. It's not that complicated, really. I could probably go up there and recycle one of the fucking satellites.